They do this yearly. The same thing here. They enact the Exodus story. This is the same thing. What she has there is a lamp. She has something that looks like a kettle. It's a plastic kettle. And they're dressed up. And she has the staff in her hand. And they do this every year. Every year they enact the Exodus story. So like I said, it's not just a story that took place, that you read in the book, but this actually happened. What you have here is a group of elders going to do what we call the wine offering, the libation. They're going to be pouring libation. We'll explain that in a video shortly. This is the same thing. So the story goes like we're able to cook with just one piece of wood. And that is what they're doing here. All they need is this one plank of wood and they can make a whole meal, because that is how we actually survived also in the wilderness. And they're carrying the stools, coming to start the enactment of the Exodus. I want to focus on what they're holding in their hands. Does anyone have a staff here?
There's one here.
Okay, I think there's one here. Do we know what this is? Are you sure? Let's read Exodus 4 carefully. And Yahweh said to him, that is, Yahweh said to Moshe, what is this in your hand? And he said, a staff. And he said, cast it down. It won't turn into a snake, I can promise you that. He said, cast it down. And Moses cast it down. And it turned into a serpent. And Moses fled from it. Yah tells him, no, don't flee. Come towards it and pick it up. And when he did, it turned back into a staff. This is where the little Hebrew gets in. That word for staff, mater, is the same word for tribe. I'll repeat that, you didn't get it. That word for a staff is the same word for a tribe. What was he telling him? It's me? Say something. Very good. Pharaoh cast us down as serpents. He cast down the tribes of Israel. Those were the tribes. And he tells them, when he cast it down, he runs away from it. He says, no, don't run away from it. Pick it up. So he picks it up and they become a staff again. But they're really the tribes of Israel.
Wow.
So on Passover, he says, when you eat in your meal, I want you to hold the tribes in your hands. Not just a staff. It represents the tribes of Israel. So at the crossing of the Red Sea, Moshe is scared. When you read the text, read it slowly. When they saw the Egyptians coming, he turned to the people and told them not to be afraid. And then he turns around to go pray to Yah. And Yah says, why do you turn to pray to me? Tell Israel that they move forward. Where? Into the sea? He says, tell them that they move forward. And I want you to stretch the staff over. Stretch Israel, stretch the tribes over the water and see what happens. And the water parts. So when we hold this staff, we treat it with respect. Because what you hold in your hands is precious. It represents a nation. It's not just a staff. Just wanted to share that with you. We're not holding just a staff. It represents Israel. Awesome. When Joseph came down to Egypt, and finally Jacob is coming down with the rest of the family to Egypt, Joseph had a concern. What was his concern? He did not want Israel to assimilate with the Egyptians. So he came up with an idea. He said, I'm going to tell Pharaoh that you guys stay in Goshen. Joseph was the first person to create what we call a ghetto. The reason why Joseph created the ghetto is because he did not want Israel to assimilate with the Egyptians and become Egyptian. For a long time, they were living in Goshen. And then as they became many, they started coming into the inland, into the city. And that is when they started getting assimilated. I'm going to focus on my tribe for a second, and then I would, during the migration route, I'll talk about the Levites and the Judah. Okay. I'll be quick. So it says, your servants have been owners of livestock from our youth until now, both we and our ancestors, so that you may dwell in the land of Goshen. He did not want them to mix with the Egyptians and become assimilated. So he says, I want you to stay in Goshen. It worked for a while, and then everything got messed up. The tribe of Gad, my tribe, we had a thing for Ethiopian women. So most of us married Ethiopian women. So when we were migrating back, when the Assyrians came in, but let me say this first. When Moshe came in to take us out of Egypt, there were people already migrating out of Egypt before Moshe came. Some people were already going out. When Moshe came and took us out, it was not everybody that went to Sinai with Moshe. Some migrated and went up to Ethiopia. There were already people migrating to the coast of West Africa before 70 AD, way before 70 AD. Okay. But I'm going to start the narrative, the migration during 70 AD when we started leaving out. So my tribe, the tribe of Gad, we had a thing for Ethiopian women, so we married a lot of Ethiopian women. When we got to Ethiopia, we stayed there for a long time because we married their women. This picture here that you're seeing On the left seated here is Ni Otu Akwetey. He's the king of one of the 7 houses of the people of God. The one seated next to him is Ni Tete Otu. He's also the head or the king of the other tribes, the other houses. And then the person standing in the blue is Ni Ajay Kraku, is also one of the elders or the chiefs of one of the other tribes. So there's 7 tribes, and you have 3 of the elders sitting and standing with a very beautiful lady. She is the great, great, great granddaughter of the Queen of Sheba. She came to West Africa, to the Gadaks, the Gadangbe group, looking for her blood relations. And she came all the way to the Ga chiefs because they have it in their history that we were there for a while. They have it in their history that we married their women. So she came looking for her blood relations, and she met with the chiefs of the Gadangbe's, the Gadaks. This is why when I say what I'm telling you is not a Bible story. It is history. Information that we can prove, that we can back up with evidence. Awesome. So let's start from Ethiopia. These children of God that migrated to Abyssinia grew up and had children of their own and became huge in numbers. So I'm giving you the story before 70 AD. I want to focus on that group. The reason why we want to focus on the people who migrated without being pushed out is because they migrated on their own accord. Meaning that they kept their tradition, they kept their customs, they kept their tongue intact. They were not pushed out. They left looking for a better land. They left because they wanted to flourish somewhere else. They left sometimes because they wanted better places to farm. So they're living in the original state. Nobody has changed their history. Nobody has messed with their tongue. We want to focus on those people because they give us a lot of information that is not watered down. So that's why they are very key. So in Ethiopia, we stayed there for a while and then we flourished. They stayed at the bank of the Nile River, which we call Nilo. So when you hear somebody from West Africa say we were at the Nilo River, the place where the Blue Nile originates, they're talking about the Nile. There was a bit of strife between these Hebrews and the indigenous people. And because they were growing in number, they decided to look for land of their own. So the people of the land of Abyssinia, they accommodated the Hebrews for a while, but as usual, if you're living on someone's land, there's always strife. So when that happened, we decided to leave Abyssinia and go look for land of our own. So they left Cush and they journeyed along the banks of the river through Meroe in Sudan. I'm not showing you the maps. I want you to write down the names so that when you go home, you can do that homework. Type in Meroe in Google and look at the map. So now you can trace the route. So they left Cush and they journeyed along the banks of the river through Meroe in Sudan. From Meroe, they traveled to a place where they met a tributary. So you have the 2 rivers joining. That flows into the Nile. The Arabs that they met there called that place Baal el Ghazal. So from Abyssinia, they came to Meroe, and then they came to a place called Baal el Ghazal. The land in Baal el Ghazal was a little muddy, so you couldn't really do that much there. If you were people migrated, you want better land. So at Baal el Ghazal, the sand was muddy. So the groups decided to move to the hills and settled at the place called Lake Chad. What happened there was interesting. When they were leaving Baal el Ghazal, they divided themselves into 3 groups. One group went down to the Congo. So you have Hebrews in the Congo today. One group went out to the Congos. Another group also branched out. And they became lost to us. We don't know where they went to. We've traced them to South Africa. So you have Hebrews, Gadites in South Africa. Let's move on. Let me see this. So they divided themselves again into 3 groups and migrated to Lake Chad. So the group that went to Congo stayed there. The second group that went lost to us, that we've located in South Africa, also left. Now the main group that was left, they divided themselves into 3 groups and they went up to Lake Chad. Please write these places down and then look for them on Google. They went to Lake Chad. They stayed there for 70 years. So that they can rest, they can flourish, they can have children, so that they can continue. And that is how they migrated. You walk, they did not have cars or aeroplanes, they were walking on foot. So you walk when you're tired, you stay somewhere. If the land was good for farming, for fishing, you stay put there for a while. You rest, you have more children, and then you can move on. So they stayed at Lake Chad for 70 years. They left Lake Chad after 70 years, coming down the valley. They came to a river called Benue. This river is still in Nigeria today. Let me say this. When you look on the African continent and you see the country, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, those are artificial boundaries that came about in 1844. What we call the, it's not Rambo, something for Africa, I forgot the name. The scramble for Africa. That is when the colonial masters came and then they demarcated their territories. So, to start, you have to remove those imaginary lines. When we were migrating, there was no place called Nigeria. There was no place called Togo, Ghana. No, it was nothing like that. All you had was empty land. So, from Lake Chad, we came to a place called Benue. Now we had to cross that river called Benue to a place called Lokoja.
Yes.
Is somebody Nigerian here? Okay. Yoruba, awesome. So they had to cross that Benue river to a place called Lokoja. Lokoja is in modern day Nigeria today. Lokoja is a very old town. Very old town. From Lokoja, we divided ourselves into 3 groups. One went to Ile-Ife.
Yes.
Another group went to Ogbomosho.
Yes.
The third group went to Bonny.
Yes.
They are all in present day Nigeria. My sister is saying yes because she knows those places. So 3 groups. One went to Ile-Ife. The second went to Ogbomosho. The third settled at Bonny. So you have these 3 places, Lokoja, Ile-Ife, Ogbomosho, Bonny. They are all in present day Nigeria. Awesome. The name the people there called us when we got there, they called us Game, meaning people of God, or Ganyo, meaning Gadites. This is important. Because if the people we met there testify that we are the Hebrews, it's important. Because that is how we introduce ourselves to them. We did not tell them we were Hamites or Egyptians. We told them where we were coming from. And they called us the Gadites. This is the name that they gave to us. Because that's what we told them. Awesome. So we stayed 70 years in Lokoja, Ogbomosho, Bonny, Ile-Ife, before moving on. Those who settled at Ile-Ife call themselves Gamashi, meaning that the Gadites will leave. We were telling our host, we're just passing through. We're not here to stay. We don't want your land. We're going to find land on our own. So we say Gamashi, meaning the Gadites will leave. Those who settled in Ogbomosho call themselves Gamwo, meaning that we are the Gadites. We are God. Like I said, this is important because during these migration routes, or during this migration, we knew who we were. And we were identifying as such. Okay. Those who settled in Bone call themselves La. La means fire. That group are very harsh. When you meet them in Ghana today, you will know that these are the guys. They are very harsh, just by their name, La. What they did was, because they lived in Bone, they took the La and added it to Bone, and they called themselves La Bone. We've westernized it. When you go to Ghana today, and you go to a place called La Boni, because when the Europeans came, they couldn't say them Bone, they called it Boni. So when you go to Ghana and you see La Boni, it is reminding us of a place that we stayed during the migration route. So we've kept the names of these cities also. You can actually see the names in our settlements today. What you are witnessing, let me go back. In Ile-Ife, I told you we stayed there for a while. Recently, the chief or the king of Ile-Ife paid us a visit in Ghana. And his message was, when you came to our land, we fed you, we clothed you. You told us you were leaving to go find land for yourself. But when you got there and you settled down, you hadn't come back to tell us that, hey, we got to the place that we're going. So we've taken the initiative to come and find our brothers that we helped some time back to see if they found better land to settle in. This is why the king of Ile-Ife came all the way to Ghana looking for the Gadites that they met when they were migrated. I'm going to show you the video and I'm going to translate and explain certain things that you see on here. So they're doing the drumming and dancing as usual, the same thing we're doing here. I won't play everything, but I want you to watch. These are the elders, they're dancing. Everything he's doing has meaning. What he's doing, he's not dancing, he's communicating. If you understand what he's doing, you will understand what he's saying. So it says the king of Ile-Ife calls on the Ga chiefs. That is the king here. You see he's holding something in his hand. Okay. He's holding the same stuff, the rod. So those are the elders coming in. What is he blowing? Oh, sorry. I don't speak Yoruba, so I can't tell you what they're saying. When my chief starts speaking, I'll tell you what he's saying. You see, he's prostrated on the floor. If you read your Torah, you will notice that when Abraham was doing the purchase for the land to bury Sarah, he does the same thing. Anytime they got further through the negotiations, he would prostrate. That is the warrior. He's actually going to give permission so that these two kings can start speaking. So this is my chief pouring libation. This is the wine offering that you read about. Notice how he's doing it. He has the little calabash and he's doing it this way. I'll explain it when he's done. These are the women. They play a very key role. Okay, I translate. He says, tell the king of Ileife. He wants to thank you. When they counted the days, we know what they've done for us. And they know what we've done for them. Yes. He came to visit us, we welcome him. When you look at the history, when you look at the Torah, when we were migrating, we came to their house. They welcomed us, they gave us food, they gave us water, and then we left. When we came to Ghana, we didn't go back to say thank you. But they have come. Yes, they've come as angels to come and ask. Those that left us, have they made it to their place? Yes, we made it. We become a nation. We say thank you. Yes, we're making history. That's what we say. We'll also come to their land. He's saying thank you to them. I'll stop here because of time. So these are two kings who met each other. The ancestors met each other during the migration route. And because the history is written, the good thing to do, the moral thing to do is if somebody comes to visit you and they leave, you have to go check on them and find out, did they make it where they are going? And this is what these two chiefs are doing. They're making history here. This also goes to prove to you that we're not just telling you stories. It's not just one man, me, making noise. This is something that has been documented. If you notice during the libation that he was pouring, can I get a bottle? Just empty bottle. There's two ways you can pour the wine offering, what we call libation. He had it in his hand and he was pouring it towards him. That tells me that the prayer that he's praying, he wants the prayer to come to him. He wants the prayer to benefit him. It's something that is positive, it's good. So when you're doing that, you want to pour the libation towards you. If it's something, a mishap, it's something that you're praying away, something negative, you pour it away from you. So just looking at him and how he's pouring the wine offering, we can say what he's doing. All what he's saying is positive. He's asking for blessings, he's asking for unity, he's asking for long life. But anytime you see somebody pouring libation and then they're pouring it away from them, maybe they go into war and they're praying for victory. They want the evil to be on the other party. Or maybe there's a curse that they're praying out of the community. The libation is poured away from you, not towards you. So this is some of the customs in the Torah that we still practice till today. Awesome. So we were at Ile Ife, Ogbomoso, Bonny. And these places are in modern day Nigeria. From that place, we came down southward to a place called Angoni. Angoni is still in modern day Nigeria today. Because it's an old city, we call it the land of the Angoni. Kamashi, the first group that were at Ile Ife, when God would lead, that's what it means, set off, they came to a mountain range. They observed the mountains went up and down, up and down, up and down. Who knows the country Togo? Who's heard of it? How did Togo get its name? So in our language, when something goes up and down, it's to, go, to, go, to, go. So when they got to that mountain range and then they saw that, they named the place Togo. Now we westernize it to Togo. But it's telling us that if you go there, you find a lot of mountain range. So they named the place Togo. So Togo, logo, Togo, logo. And now it's become Togo. But when we were migrating and got there, there was no Togo. It wasn't there. They stopped at Togo so that they could rest, settle down, multiply, grow crops, and get themselves together so they can continue on their journey. Because they were very fruitful when they got to this place, because they were very fruitful, they named the place Anaho. Anaho means that we got pregnant. Usually, if the water is sweet, if you have very good water, the women become very fertile. So they had a lot of children, and they called the place Anaho. There's actually, the Anaho is still there today. It's maintained that name, Anaho. So they settled at Anaho for 70 years, as usual, and Gamashi moved and settled at Nyanawe, at the foot of the mountains, and from there they migrated further to what was Ayiwaso. Let me explain that name. It means Ayi stopped on Thursday. That's what the name means. Ayiwaso. Why did they say that? The leader, the person who was leading us, his name was Ayi. So it will be like, Morris stopped on Thursday. So, Morris Waso. The leader was called Ayi. So to preserve that, we put his name to name the place. And that's how we kept some of the history. So we say Ayi Waso. He stopped on Thursday. This was when the leader said, okay, we are tired, let us rest. So Ayi stopped on a Thursday. So the name of our leader was Ayi Kushi, Ayi the Cushite. The reason he's called the Cushite was because he was a very strong warrior when we were in Ethiopia. So they called him the Cushite, meaning he was strong. So we kept that name also, Ayi Kushi, Ayi the Cushite. Okay. So when you come to Ghana, there's a place called Ayawaso. They've changed it because the British could not pronounce Ayiwaso, it became Ayawaso. So that also tells you about the history. Now, the second group, that was Gad or Gawo. We are Gad. They also came down to Amaah, where we got pregnant. And then they migrated to the banks of a river called Laloi. They named the place Wo, Doku. We are Doku. If you remember, in the morning I told you that anybody with the name Doku means that deliberate marriage was performed. So that tells us that when they got here, one of the leaders must have performed a deliberate marriage. So to remember that, they named the place that. This also goes to show you that we were performing the customs in the Torah without the text of the Torah. So we can get that from the names that we named these places. We did not migrate with a text. We did not have a text. But we kept the customs, and we named these places as such, as evidence, so that when we tell the story, we can prove that, see, when we got to Laloi, the Laloi River, I can show you the Laloi River if you come visit West Africa, and I'll show you this is where we called Wodoku. There was a deliberate marriage performed there. That is why we named it such. Now Labone, the fire of Bonnie. They also came down the Laloi River, and because their brothers had named the place Wodoku, they named it Po Doku. Why they did that, I don't know. They just chose that name. Okay. So now we have Gamashi is at Ayiwaso. You have Gawo, they are at Wodoku, and then Labone, they were at Po Doku. All these places, you can find them on a map. Okay. So, the people at Wodoku said they wanted waters that tasted good. Because if you have a lot of people migrating and then you get a very small source of water, it runs out quickly. Because they're using it not just to drink, but they have to bath, they have to wash things. So when they moved, they found a place of sweet smelling water, which is Nungwa. Nu is water. Gua means it smells good. So they named the place Nungwa. This place still exists in West Africa. So it means the waters that smell sweet or perfume water. Okay. Now, I think this is the place everybody is waiting for. Talk about the Judah and Levi.
All right.
Awesome. So there were two other tribes that migrated with the Gads till Togo. So the Gadites were not migrating alone. There were two other tribes, the Levites and then Judah. The reason why you will not find on the map of West Africa, the old map, the reason why you will not find Judah is because they did not call themselves Judah. It's important. So if you go looking for Judah, you will not find it. When I meet people and they want to argue that there was no Judah there, I'm like, you don't know what you're saying because you don't know the history. Okay. So we have the Levites and the Judahites. The Levites went by the name Mosi or Anglon. Anglon means scribes. If you want to learn the ancient Hebrew tongue, you want to learn their dialect because that is what they speak. If you want to learn the ancient Hebrew tongue, you want to follow the Levites or the Judahites. The tribe of Judah went by the name Ajah or Ajavio, A-J-A or A-J-A-V-I-O. Ajah or Ajavio. These two groups are the Judahites. They come from the tribe of Judah. They did not go by the name Judah. Please put that in your spirit. So the Judahites are Ajah or Ajavio. Let's talk about the Levites first. It was not all the tribes of Israel that used their ancestral names for their designation. The Levites did not identify themselves by Levites. Rather, they named themselves after their famous kinsman, Moses. So when you see the Mosi tribe, you're looking at the Levites. Okay. The Mosi people are mainly in West and Central Africa. Anglon, another group that are Levites. Anglon means scribes. They were the ones enacting the Exodus story, the pictures that I just showed you. Another group of Levites who did not name themselves after their ancestors were the Anglon people. Anglon means scribes or writers. Okay. These would have been the writers of the original Hebrew Bible. So when you go to their Yeshidi shrines, they actually use the pictographs that Moshe used. They can tell you its name, they can tell you the vowels. Just play with it. It's remarkable. Now the Ajah or Ajavio are the Judahites. The Ajah or Ajavio ruled all of every land before the arrival of the Europeans. Look at Hugh Carplinton's writings, his diaries. He met the king of Judah, or the king of Judah in Old Oyo. And he interviewed him, and he writes it in his diaries. He interviewed the king of Judah, and he asked him, how big is your territory? And he tells him it's from modern day Ghana all the way to Nigeria. He ruled all those territories. That land that occupied the 5 countries, they were all ruled by the kings of Judah. And Judah is still on the West African continent today. The Ajah people gave the name Tado to their homeland, present-day Republic of Benin, Dahomey. Benin was called Dahomey before it was changed to Benin. I explained the name Tado. When we were migrating, we knew that we were migrating with a head, which was Judah. Judah migrated differently. The other tribes, we just get up and we all move. But because there were royalties in Judah, they would send scouts ahead of them. So the scouts will go, make sure that the place is safe before the royal line will actually migrate. Because we don't want them getting into harm. We want to preserve that lineage. So, when we got to Dahomey, that is where we broke off from the Judahites. The Gadites broke off from the Judahites. When we got to Dahomey, the scouts came there first, and they saw that this is a place that we can stay. All the other tribes had arrived, but Judah. So, we were all waiting for Judah to arrive. When Judah got there, we said Ta-do. Ta means the head. Do means arrived. So when you go to Dahomey and you see the name Ta-do, it's saying that the head has arrived, meaning that Judah has arrived. Okay. Anybody here likes black-eyed peas? The reason why I ask that is because one trait of the Judahites is black-eyed peas. They love it to the core. During the migration route, everywhere that we stopped, all the names that I have mentioned, the first thing they do is plant beans. Everywhere we stop, they'll plant black-eyed peas. So the other tribes gave them the name Ayible. Means a bean farm. We still call them that today. So when you come to West Africa and someone tells you, I am an Herbe, and you say Eve, and then he will say Aibe, he's telling you that he's Judah. They are not, I don't like that much beans because I'm the Judah, I'm God. But that is one thing that we notice about the Judahites. They like, so when I came to school here, and my college friends, they just love the Black Eyed Peas. I'm like, what is wrong with you Judah people? On the continent, that's all you eat. Here, everything has Black Eyed Peas. So that is one of the ways that we identify the royal house. We identify Judah. That is why when sometimes I hear my family here say that we are Judah, it has some validity to it. So you're not just making things up. I've said all of this. So the Levites, the Judahites, the Mosi or the Anglo-Arabs, the Aja or Ajavio, these two are called the Aibe people. But the Aibe people, see, the Levites, they're not as they are not that much a lover of beans like the Judahites. So they are brothers in crime, but the Aibe people usually is referred to the Judahites. Okay, so I talked about all this. Judah can be found in these places, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria, but they go by the name Aja. So when you're doing your research, when you're looking, look for the Aja people or the Ajavio. Don't go looking for Judah or Judahite, you will not find them. Okay. My sister from Yoruba has a question and contribution. Please go ahead.
Lagos in the Lekki Peninsula area.
Yes.
Just outside Lekki Peninsula.
Yes.
The Aja people are still there.
Yes.
They've been absorbed into the Lekki people. So you have Lekki and you have Aja.
Aja.
So they're still there today.
Awesome. Wow. Wow. So like I said, we are not telling you stories. We're not telling you stories.
Could you repeat what she said in the microphone, sir?
Yes, so she said the Lekki and the Aja. They're still there in Nigeria today. But, so I did not know about the Lekki people. I didn't know that they were Aja. So when you're looking for them, you look for the Lekki, you said?
Aja specifically is there. The
Yes.
people are still there.
Yes, that I know. Okay. But you mentioned Lekki also.
Yes, they are next to
They're next to.
Peninsula.
Got
They've
you.
been absorbed by Lekki.
The Lekki. Got you. Got you. Awesome. Customs and traditions. I will not go into this, or maybe I should. Linda Gillard wrote an article and she called it Trokosi, Slave of the Gods. She came to West Africa and she saw children being dedicated to the shrines. And they lived in the shrines. And she thought that they were being used as sex slaves. So without talking to the locals, she came up with this conclusion. What she doesn't know is that it's not called Trokosi. Tro means idol. She thought it was idol worship that were performed in the shrines. The real name is Fieshidi, meaning the bride of Yah. That is what it means. The first person to go or use this custom was Samuel. When Hannah took Samuel to the temple to leave him there, it was this same custom that he was keeping. Whether it's a man or a woman, male or female, you become a bride of the Yahweh. It's called Keshidi. We still keep this custom today. This is like a 4,000-year-old custom. It started with Jephthah's daughter. And then we see Samuel also being initiated to this. Just want to glance over. Okay. So this is not into details. I will send you a video with the details of the migration routes. I just gave you a little bit of it. I did not mention the kings. I didn't mention the elders. I didn't mention the people we ran into. I didn't give you all of it. This is just a tip of the iceberg. I have a video that is going to come out that is going to document all of that when I go to Ghana in July for 3 weeks. There's an elder that I need to sit with before Yah calls him home. He has some information. He doesn't speak English. But he called me and he said, I need you to come home and record what I'm going to say. So we can document it. So I'm going to go see him in July. He has a show called Nekemo. Nekemo means that this is rather the story. And he wants it written down. Very key. He's the one who trains all the kings to become a king or an elder. You have to go under this man, and he has to train you and teach you the customs and traditions, everything. So that project is in the works. I'm going to make what he says available so that we can all glean from it. He has so much to give us. So I've discussed about the brief Exodus, the narrative of our migration. But before I sit down, we're going to have a Passover meal. And I want to explain something brief to you. Why did we go down to Egypt? Does anybody know? Why did we become slaves in Egypt? Somebody said it. Somebody said we sold somebody. We sold Joseph. I want you to remember that. A vague prophecy was given to Abraham. Your children will be strangers in the land that is not their own. Read that verse. He never said that I will take them to a land that is not their own. Yah never said that. He said it's going to be their own doing. I'm not the one going to send them there. I'm going to be there for them because of the covenant that I have with you. But they are going to be slaves in a land that is not their own. They're going to be there for 400 years. The fourth generation, they will come out and they will inherit the land. Read this narrative of when Joseph was born. That prophecy that was given to Abraham, Jacob fulfilled that prophecy to the T. The text says, when Joseph was born, Jacob went to Laban and told him that it's time for me to go. Why Joseph? I won't say everything. Please go on my website and get a copy of that on the Passover. It's 2 sessions on the Passover. Your children will be in a land that is not their own. Jacob was not in the land of Israel. He was in Laban's house. Okay. He says that they will be oppressed and become slaves. Jacob saw himself as a slave in Laban's house because he was oppressing him. He was changing the deals that they've made. Okay. He says the fourth generation will leave out of that place. Who did Jacob want to marry? Rachel. Let's count. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. 4 generations. So the moment Joseph was born, Jacob thought it was him. Maybe I'm the fulfillment of this prophecy. So he said, I want to leave. Look at how he left. Laban chased him. When he chased him, he actually overtook him. Check his leaving out of Laban's house to how we left out of Egypt. The same exact pattern. So the text says he leaves Laban's house and he comes to the land of Canaan, and Jacob settled there. Because the prophecy said the fourth generation will come out and inherit the land. Jacob thought it was him. What took him by surprise was that the other son sold Joseph. Now the cycle has to begin again. And this time, it wasn't just his family. It was now on a macrocosmic scale. The entire nation had to go through that same cycle. Because we sold one person. What did they do when they sold him? They sat down and they had a meal. Read the text. They sat down and they broke bread after selling their brother. They could actually eat. Moshe comes to Egypt, comes to take us out. And on that night that we're leaving, Yah says, wait, we have to redo something. The reason why you ended up here is because you sold a brother and then you had a meal. Before we leave, can we have that meal again together? And this time, let's do it as a family. Because you cannot leave out of here as individuals. We have to leave out of bondage as a family. So he says, sit down, holding the staffs in your hands, the tribes. Resolve any family conflicts. Address any disagreements. Eat together as a family. Be united before you can come out of Mizraim. So what you're about to do here today is not just a ritual. We have to remember that we have to be a family for this nation to grow. We have to be a family to get out of Egypt. We can't do that as individuals. I've always waited for the day that I can have Passover with my family here in the West. It was a dream of mine because there are conflicts that need to be addressed and resolved. The same thing that happened to Joseph, it happened at the coast of West Africa when we sold our brothers. For what? Gunpowder? Food? It was a repeat. Abraham asks Yah for a child. He says, see that I am getting old with no child. Eliezer is going to inherit me. Yah says no. You're going to have a child of your own. And then in giving him that prophecy, he tells them, but your children are going to be slaves in Egypt. What did they do to deserve that? He says they're going to be strangers in Egypt. After that, the very next chapter, an interesting woman is introduced to us called Hagar. And we are told Hagar was an Egyptian. What did Sarah do to Hagar? What did she do to Hagar? Cast her out. She treated her badly. And we had to pay for that. We had an Egyptian in our household, and we did not treat her nice at all. We cast her out, and we had to go pay for that in Egypt. So when we were leaving, Moshe kept telling us, be nice to the stranger. Don't persecute the stranger. We did not listen. Greeted. Some people moved before others. So let's say this group was migrated and my brother left and migrated to this door. And he stayed there for 100 years. And then this main group, one of them also broke off and said, okay, I'm also migrated. But it's been 100 years since he left. When the second group meets up with him, he doesn't recollect that he left them back. He sees them as stranger. So it was easy that when they fought, they had a clash and he won, he would take the losers as prisoners of war and then sell them to the ships. Not knowing that it was his kinsman. He saw them as a stranger. And repeated the same thing that our ancestors did. But now we are all here. And if I can represent our ancestors, those who we might blame for things that happened, I want to ask you humbly, can we have this meal together? As family, as brothers and sisters, regardless of what happened, let's forgive the ancestors. They did not know. If they did, they wouldn't have done what they did. We can't just brush it under the table. It needs to be addressed. That is why I've longed so much to have Passover with you. To say that let's forgive each other and have this Passover in unity so that we can build this nation together. Thank you all so much for having me. Can I take just 2 questions? I want you to eat. Just 2 questions. One question. Ask anything. Yes, I think you have to come up.
You said the Judahites were called Ajavil. What does that mean exactly? Do you know? They just call themselves that. Okay. Thank you.
His question was, what does Aja or Ajavio mean? I don't know the meaning, but there's a story behind it. There were two, so the king of Judah had 3 sons, I believe, and they went by those names. And they broke away from their father and wanted to start their own kingdoms or their own territories. So I think that's where the names come from, the sons of the kings. But what the name means, I have to check with the elders. Awesome. Yes, sir.
So those people who were in the video that were doing the drums and the women that were are they awakening, and do they know if I went to one of them and asked them, hey, what tribe are you from? Would they be able to confirm? Would they tell you that I'm Israelite from tribe of Gad, in their tongue, or are they doing it just straight up based off of straight culture and custom? They don't really know that they're actually from Israel.
No, they know they're from Israel.
Okay.
Yes. So when you ask them, they tell you that they're Eves, meaning that they're Hebrews. If you ask them, are you Hebrew? They will say no. If you say, are you Eve? They will say yes. Because it's a translation of Hebrew and Eve. It's a translation. The sad thing is, a man called Akwetey changed the narrative. He inserted his name in the story. And he localized the Exodus just from Togo to Ghana. What saved the issue was that the Germans, when they were in West Africa, they were very good at keeping diaries. So they wrote about what they saw. They wrote about the interactions they had with the elders. So when you look at the oldest narrative of what we call the Noche narrative, the name Akwetey is not in there. So we know that he changed the history so that he would be, his name will go into history. But the main story that the Germans wrote, they trace it all the way to Israel, not to Togo. Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
Not so much a question, but something that I thought was kind of like, wow. Because as a people over here, when we celebrate New Year's, what's the tradition? Black Eyed Peas. Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, that's what you did.
Everybody, right? And I was like, why do we do that? And so when you were saying what you were saying, I wonder, how did we know that? Because it's a custom here for us, well, African Americans, whatever you want to call it, for us. Every New Year's, and we get together and we make Black Eyed Peas. And so when you were saying that about Judah, I was wondering, is there something that somebody knew that came, that we do that, and that we held that tradition? And then another thing I want to mention was correct, because when I had reached out to Maui, and I asked him, I said, I'd like to learn the Hebrew language from you because I'm Hebrew. He said, no, you're not. And so I had to correct myself because I studied with you, and I said, well, I'm Hebraic. He said, now I'll talk with you. He said, now you know. Now you talk. So yes.
The name that she just mentioned is very critical. Mauvi. I want you to write that name down if you can write it. He is the senior prince of the tribe of Judah. Mawuli, M-A-W-U-L-I. Mawuvi, M-A-W-U-V-I. Mawu is the Most High. V is Son. So his name is, he's the Son of the Most High. That is the last name. Mawuli means Emmanuel. So the Judahites pick their names very carefully to portray to you who they are. He has 2 books. You want to get those books. because what he writes in there for you. The Bible is the black man's history book, and then the other one is the call to the Hebrews. Very critical individual, very critical. I'll be speaking with him in England in June. So, yes, sir. Last question.
Sir, my Maury back in San Antonio, he said like 4 questions that I had from the question that he asked was last week, what are your thoughts about the Hebrew diaspora eventually returning back to Africa in preparation of our great exodus back to Israel? Good question. I got 3 more questions just like that. So
Okay. Yes, I said in the beginning of this year that everybody should pay attention to Africa because it's going to be the focal point. Okay. There is going to be a migration. We know that for a fact. We're going to go back to the land of Canaan. We know that for a fact. How it's going to happen, I cannot tell you. That is not my expertise. I will leave that for Mauvi to answer. So if you send me an email, you can actually look him up on Facebook. He will be able to answer all these questions because that is his field.
Could you say it one more time, the name and the 2 books?
So the author is Mauvi. The first book is The Call to the Hebrews. And then the second book is The Bible is the Black Man's History Book. Yes.
And
He's the senior prince of the tribe of Judah in West Africa. Yes. His information is coming from the horse's own mouth. It's precious. Very precious. Okay, I'll give the mic to Mr. Morris.
Your Akwetey are awesome. I actually met Maui before I found out about Akwetey. The brother is good brother, very humble. And if you will listen, he'll teach you. I reached out to him some years ago, and he would definitely, I had all kind of questions, and he was giving them to me. And sometimes, people can be just right there and they be willing, and you just got to take the chance to talk to them. But the funny thing is, well, you get Judah aggravated. Gonna let you know. So I seen the flyer with Akwetey and Maui. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna bring them to the States." Yeah. I was getting with brothers and let's put some money together. Let's bring this to him, but we finna make it happen. I talked to Akwetey first. Akwetey was like, "Okay, yeah, we get it done." Talked to Maui. Said, "I love you, brother, but I'm done with America." That's what he said. He said, "I'm focusing my attention on," not in the sense of saying he's done with the people or anything like that, but you're dealing with these camp Israelites. And they just woke up. This man got the customs and traditions. Ain't never lost his identity, but you finna tell him he wrong. And so, he was just telling me, he said he focuses his attention, like he said, on London, on Africa, and getting those things together. But he's not taking no tours right now, as of right now, to America. And I understand, because, sometimes dealing with us is, even getting this together, dealing with us is to be like, oh my goodness, I feel you, Maui. But what we're going to do, we're going to get ready to eat some groceries. I know we're a little hungry. We probably won't do the dancing and stuff done or something like that. Just let them know that you meet them right back there. But we're going to get ready to go ahead and feed everybody. What you'll do, you're going to go through this door and you're going to come out that door. We ask all the families to get your family, your children together, go to the line together, get your food, and come back out. So I guess, do you want to start by tables? Mothers of children.